Welcome to a special episode of Pound for Pound Box Report. You see episode 341 for those who are watching this live. For those who are regular, long-time followers of the show, I'm your host, Michael, by the way. For those who are long-time listeners of the show, uh, they know that every year I try to have at least one episode devoted to all women, all women's panel, chopping it up about the sweet science. It's been a while since we did one early in 2020, but that was held off due to pandemic and whatnot, and a little bit tardy on that. But for those who've been asking, the shit's going down tonight. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, not only just Gail, regular woman panelist, but whole new cast of characters. Daniel gets the night off. Hope he's listening live. Joining me, for those who are watching this on YouTube, let me go to top to my right. You have Minnie Larry. To her right, you have In the Ring with Christine. Below me, Gail, of course. But to the right of Gail, Knockouts with Nika. And to the right of Knockouts with Nika, Sadet, aka Black Amazon on Twitter. What's going on, ladies?
Hello.
Hey!
Hello.
Hi.
To the right does not have anything to do with politics. It's just a screen, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get too crazy about it. We are here, and Facebook and Instagram are up just in time to let you know about it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show / podcast and website discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we'll talk about it. When it's bad, it will get talked about. We will talk about it. Bottom line, if it concerns the sweet science, damn it, it will get talked about. If you want to find out any information, the site is to go to. Place to go to p4pboxingreport.com. If you check the top portion of the site, you'll find links where to follow us all over social media. Facebook, iffy, but for sure, you can rely on the links for the YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, IG, also links to where to find us all over the podcast realm, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Anchor, anywhere and everywhere else between. Links to where you can donate, got a PayPal, Cash Me account. Let donation be the best nation. I don't care if it's $1, $2, $5. If you got a little bit of chump change left over, please choose some coin to the Pound for Pound Box Report. If you want to email us, you can do so. P4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. And last but certainly not least, as we get into the fall, into the holiday season, if you're looking to get your body right, if you're looking to take your fitness game up to the next level, please check out my coaching page, which is a direct link to Beachbody and Beachbody on Demand specifically. All programs for all student interests. Whether it's bar blend, whether it's morning meltdown, whether it's PIO, which the ladies really like. If you want to step your game up and check out 645, the new program is going to drop this fall. 6 weeks of the work, which is to me the most grueling workout, the old school P90X Insanity Asylum series. Or you want to check out the 2-week free trial, which that is for 2 weeks throughout the year, Beachbody on Demand. You can check out any program, any fitness program there for free. So if you're interested in that, or if you want to take part in my regular fitness challenges, got a Let's Build Together group fitness challenge that's actually started today. Check all that out on my coaching page on the Pound for Pound Boxing Report site. Let's get things going, ladies. Normally, I start the show off with ladies first and having with Gail, right? But because we have a whole host of new ladies on the show.
Can I just say, Nika's backstage, and she asked if you could delete that one. I'm sorry, she just texted me that. If you could delete that one. She's backstage. Sorry, she had some technical difficulties. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Let me add her right quick. Get her back. Give me a quick second, folks. Some technical difficulties, and there she is.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We took I took last week off on purpose just to prepare for this show, and during that interim, we didn't talk about the fight with Joshua and Usyk. So let's get the conversation with there. And since I got you on, Michael, let's begin the conversation with you. Heading into this fight, Joshua was viewed as the favorite, but a lot of us, folks who followed the sport regularly, right, we felt that Usyk had a more than a decent chance. He showed that certainly on the night. Took control early. Took the play away from Joshua with the jab and with the movement. Joshua never really got comfortable. He rallied a little bit in the mid rounds, but by late, he was teetering and tattering on the ropes. If this was an old school 15-round fight, or if the fight would have lasted a minute longer, he possibly would have went down, if not out. Usyk wins. I was worried when we did the preview that Usyk would do enough to get the win, but Joshua would get the decision. Kudos to the judges for calling it down the middle, calling it fair. Basically 8-4 in and around there across the board for minus plus or minus a round for Usyk. Your thoughts on the fight? A lot of people talking about what Joshua didn't do. I want to focus on what Usyk did. He ups his standing to me. He was in a lot of folks' pound for pound rankings going in. I think he solidifies, moves up all the way to number 2. You can make an argument for number 1, but yeah, he did the damn thing on the 25th of September. Your reaction?
Who's first? Me?
Yeah, you.
Okay. All right. So I think that Usyk, he definitely let his jab dominate that fight. I don't know what Joshua's game plan was, but he just seemed like he was flat-footed the whole entire fight. I rewatched it today just to like have a refreshment in my head, and I didn't even see him bounce up and down like 2 times. Like he was literally flat-footed the whole fight, and I just felt like Usyk was more hungry for it. Like he wanted it more. Like it, Joshua just looked like he was just there to fight. When I rewatched it, he just really did not have any like grit or like any will to win that fight. It just I mean kudos to Usyk because whatever he had mapped out definitely worked out for him. But I think his jab, I was rewatching it today, and the jab was like he was backing Joshua up, and I'm like, Joshua's a big guy, but that jab of Usyk's definitely had Joshua on his back foot, and he didn't have no movement. I don't know what he's gonna do for this rematch, to be honest, but he definitely has a lot to work on. But I'm not mad that Usyk won. He definitely deserved it. He worked for it. He definitely dug it out and wanted it more. So that's mine.
I'll go to you, Christine, and then you can follow up, Minnie. In the aftermath of this, you coach out in Colorado, right? A lot of people are talking. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
A lot of people in the aftermath of this fight, in assessing Joshua's performance, either they talk about how he wasn't aggressive on one hand, or they talk about his strategy being off. I've also heard that from a lot of folks that he needs to dump his trainer, McCracken, right? Your thoughts on that? Do you think not only was the strategy off, it was apparent by the way he fought, but is it time for AJ to not only get rid of McCracken? Do you think it would also be wise for him to move his base of operations from from the confinements of the UK, possibly come to the United States and get another ear, another advice, another mode of strategy, more tactics and whatnot?
I will say, first of all, Joshua's jab looked better than I've ever seen it. So I will say he did do that well. And I think that we have to give credit to his trainer. The thing about it is you can change trainers, and people can show you and tell you. But once you get in the midst of the fight and someone is dominating the way Usyk did, I mean, he was slipping everything. He was coming out. He was just coming at him. He was dogging him out and roughing him up. You revert back to your old ways. So we could say change trainer, and then he learns a new trick. Like I said, his jab looks really good, better than I've ever seen it. But then he's always going to revert to what he knows. So, I don't know. I don't like people jumping around so much because really you don't learn anything. You have to relearn the coach's techniques. They have to relearn you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes it can be beneficial, but in this case, he's older. He's been around. He still has his bad habits, his good habits, and there's not going to be much change. And I know the rematch clause is in there, but I don't want to see it. But that's what I think. I think he just needs to stay put and work on, and work on whatever his coach is telling him. Jumping around is not going to help him, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to you, Minnie, and you can follow up to that, Gail.
Oh, God.
Christine basically said that she doesn't want to see the rematch. The problem is that Joshua immediately after the fight said we're going to do it again. I'm hearing early word that it could happen soon as February, March next year. Could things change? Personally,
No.
I just don't see it.
No, things can't change. And you know what, I apologize beforehand. I have very strong opinions about Joshua. I think he's an exceptionally charismatic and marketable boxer. However, I hate that these parallels are all, he draws these own parallels. When he's walking into the ring, he had a Rocky song during his ring walk. He has and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, you do realize you're not Rocky, you're Drago, right? In this whole conceptual world, he has the body, he has the look, he has his country behind him in the same ways. But there's something to be said when you have all of that going for you, but yet your technical skills falter. And we saw this the first time with Ruiz. We saw this even in the second fight in Saudi Arabia. And I have to admit, I didn't watch it just because it was in Saudi Arabia, and we already know about Jamal Khashoggi. So I was not going to look at that anyway. But then we see him again with Usyk. I mean, you have to understand, you had to up your game to get into that ring with him. You can't come to a southpaw and think everything that you've done in the past is going to work. It failed him miserably. I don't want to say that he's doing something that's illegal, but I will say that if he were to trade trainers and coaches and leave his home country to get the type of coaching that he needs, America has a lot more. Our laws against steroids and everything it's a lot more stringent, and I can't put out there that he's doing something illegal, but it's just.
Well, let me interrupt you.
Excuse
me if you don't mind me interrupting.
No,
are you
absolutely
sure about
not.
That? Are you sure about our in terms of how stringent we are when it comes to illegal substances, given Valdez?
I mean,
not the interruption.
Wait, but you have to think about it. He is the UK's poster boy. Everywhere that he goes, he has his country behind him. You have to excuse my voice. We have several boxers from the US that we get behind, that we love, that can go out and rep us. This man has the country on he's holding it on his shoulders. I just, and yes, I do agree that the US's doping policies are a lot more intense than other countries are. Unless, what do you say? Unless it's fentanyl, unbelievable. It's something about Joshua that I see, that when I saw him going into this fight, I was like, he's not going to win. It's not fun for him anymore. And I tweeted out that, look, he's made all this money. He has all of these people who love him. It's time to get out of this before you get yourself hurt. So I don't know. Anyone else have a thought to help me untangle all of this in my head?
So that Gail, what say you, ladies?
I think Joshua. I rewatched the fight, and I also was looking at the Ruiz fight. I think Joshua's beautiful. I think he is a perfect package. He is a handsome, handsome man, and he hits like a Mack truck. But that's a lot that is very much predicated on him waiting for a moment, him waiting for something to happen, for somebody to be less. I work hard. I work out a lot. There is a thing where I think happens, and it's very evident in Joshua to me. And I'm much less kind of focused than a lot of people here. But it feels like you believe that the effort is the same as the dissection, as the actual processing, as the actual looking at people. And I watched the fight, and I was shocked because I looked at the cards and they were like, it was really close. And I was like, for the first about 6 to 7 rounds, was it close or was it boring?
Right.
Because were punches being thrown? Were things happening? Or was it just that like everybody was feeling each other out? And that's for someone who is 6 inches taller and has like 12 inches on reach. Why is it like that? And when he really started to go in, he had him on the ropes. He's leaning back. As like I said, he's flat-footed. And there becomes a point where it's just like, if you're not in, rooting for you is not necessarily the same as rooting for you to win the fight. You're not exciting to me as a fighter. And I think that there's this part with Joshua was like, I like you to look at you. I like sometimes when you talk, you're a little bland for me, but do I root for you as a fighter? And are you coming to, I think when you said like, he's like, I'm Rocky. How are you the underdog here? How are you the underdog in this fight? And I think that says something about the way he fights. It's like, there's an assumption that you are not, there's this weird assumption that sometimes happens with people where you're the champion, but you're also the underdog, but none of those lead you to treat your opponent like a real opponent. How are you going to sit down and actually deal with the dude right in front of you? And reading a lot of the follow-ups by Usyk of like what he talked about how he ran his fight, about how he concentrated, about how he held himself back, it felt very different. Like you were talking to someone who looked at his opponent and studied it and said, this is how I'm going to beat the guy directly in front of me, versus somebody is like, this is how I'm going to stay champion. And you think you stay champion by doing what you, as Christine says, you do what you thought you've done, and it's not enough. And do you have the actual ability to adjust to something new? Because the thing that I'm also interested in, Joshua's a clear favorite, blah, blah, blah. Like now, what is the heavyweight picture like? What is actually going to set that picture post-rematch? Who belongs to who? Because Joshua took it off of Ruiz. Ruiz didn't train that great. There's the whole Fury Wilder thing. This now seems to be a lot more open. So how are you going to deal with the fact that it's no longer a clear story of you just have to, people are chasing you and you're going back and forth? What is the actual picture going to look like? And are they ready to kind of dive into the idea that, no, you're going to have to fight. And you're going to fight multiple people. And this might become a tourney again. And it's not just going to be payday to payday to payday to payday, spectacle to spectacle. When it's you and that other dude in the ring, how are you handling that?
Yeah, what she said.
in terms of the overall landscape of the division, that'll be determined by the end of this week with Wilder and Fury, particularly if Fury happens to win.
When he wins. Okay.
Look, let's speculate. We all have our ideas. I'll make that perfectly clear when we talk about it, but you know, I'll go to you, Gail. Your thoughts on this fight.
Well, following the fight last week, I called the state of the heavyweight division a delicious disarray. I love it. I don't like when the outcomes of these contests seem to be scripted, seem to be preordained. And believe me, we all know that somebody steps on the scale and somebody leans on that end. I mean, come on. We know by where the fight is placed, by how the judges are chosen, by the way certain things are overlooked or little concessions made.
Business.
We can tip the scales to the A side every single time. So I'm delighted when the A side doesn't win. Not that it should always happen by any means, but the right man won. We all knew
Yes.
that if it was a very close fight on Anthony Joshua's turf, Usyk was going to have to do way more than 50% +1, a lot more, and he did. And that is what he has done every single fight since 2015. He has won on the opponent's turf every single time. He beat Gassiev in Moscow. He beat Briedis in Riga, Latvia. And he won his Olympic gold medal in London in the same games that Joshua won his. Now, to speak, in Joshua's defense, we all have to remember he only had 43 amateur fights by the time he walked. Well, he had 43 amateur fights, the 43rd being his Olympic gold medal win. That's it. He only started boxing at age 18. He's absolutely had to learn on the job with all the world watching. And he deserves credit for being able to do that up to this point. He deserves credit for having come back off a devastating loss. I would argue that loss to Andy Ruiz was far worse and far more embarrassing personally. I mean, that was a low moment. And he avenged that loss. He definitely deserves a chance to see what he can do again against Usyk. I don't think the outcome's going to be a lot different. Usyk is just a very special, very cerebral fighter who maximizes his talents. Yeah. Not every fighter is skilled in every single capacity in boxing. So you need to roll with what you've got and make the most of it. And that's absolutely what Usyk does. He is supremely conditioned. His accuracy, terrific. His footwork, amazing.
He did 12 full rounds and then did the Cossack jump.
Yes, right. That was incredible to me. That he was leaping and dancing around the ring. 15 rounds, no problem. Another fight, great, bring it. He trains, and he has got ice water in his veins and nerves of steel. And that, to me, is where he really overcomes his opponents. Joshua, ever since he lost to Ruiz, he's come back by appearances physically. His skills look fine, but the dog got beaten out of him. The dog got whipped and sent to the corner, and the dog isn't back yet. I'm not sure it'll ever be back. And to the point made earlier, ladies, we can say it. He's a good-looking man. There's a lot of other ways for him to make a living that wouldn't be anywhere near as difficult as this. He can say for the rest of his life, he's been heavyweight champion of the world. He's an Olympic gold medalist. And there are plenty of people in this world who've made a really good living from that. Does he absolutely need to have another fight in his life?
No.
He says if he didn't want to.
But didn't
No.
he just sign a long contract?
Well, he did.
Signed with Eddie Hearn.
Right before he lost. The person that left the ring the most downhearted was Eddie Hearn. He looked terrible. But Eddie has a way of snapping back. He's a pretty optimistic guy. You have to be when you're a promoter in this day and age, man. He knows how to snap it back. So they get another fight out of it. And then we'll see what happens this weekend. But, Michael, I would argue with you. I don't think we're going to know what the state of the division is by the end of this week. Not at all. There's a lot of ways the top four can mix and match. And then there are 4 or 5 others that are sort of hovering. You have Dillian White, who's been waiting on the sidelines forever. You do have Andy Ruiz out there, a former world heavyweight champion. And depending on the performances on the undercard, you might have somebody like Frank Sanchez or F.A. Ajagba or Otto Valine or even Richard Helenius or Robert Helenius, pardon me. We really do not know how they're all going to shake out. So we, the fans, finally, in what's been a really tough boxing year, have gotten lucky. We have all these potential fights to look forward to. It's almost a tournament at the heavyweight level. I say bring it on. I love it.
Fury whoops Wilder again. I know Usyk has the belt, but if Fury whoops Wilder again, he's the man. Period. The other fighters you mentioned, White, who would you make the favorite in a fight against Fury if he's on his A game? All the other fighters, how do you think he would fare against Fury on his A game? Usyk would give Fury a good bout. I could see him beating him, but a lot of people would feel going into that if they were to fight, Fury would be the favorite.
Are you very feel about that, Michael? Are you very feel?
A lot of people feel he would be the favorite. Here's my question before we move on. Look, I know in the pound for pound list, quote unquote, a lot of people would have either Canelo and Crawford at the very top. I know that Usyk has had less than 20 fights, but can an argument be made he's the best pound for pound fighter in the world right now?
I think that's kind of far.
I'm sure for some people.
I don't think
I wouldn't say all that. I wouldn't personally say all that. But
I would say, could an argument be made? Yes. Could a good argument be made? Not really.
Yeah,
I put him above. If people still got Bud at 2 or 3, I put him above Bud all day. What has Bud done lately at 147?
I agree with you, but I think you still have Canelo at the top, and especially if he blows out Caleb Plant, it's not a question, because he will have unified super middleweight in the 4-belt era for the first time, and that's a significant accomplishment. Could Usyk get there? Usyk could get there. He's got a few stairs to climb, but he's got the potential to do it. Now we've also got to see what Bud's going to do later this month, and he needs a very strong performance. It can't be close. It can't be, and he sure as hell can't lose, which I don't think a lot of people expect, but is certainly a possibility. So you see a lot of cards being shuffled. That's great. That gives these guys at the top something to aspire to. They need something to fire them up. That's what makes them great. And some of them can do it internally. A guy like Usyk, he is ambitious. He has an incredible work ethic. You could see it. He has the drive. No matter who's there in front of him, no matter who's ranked around him, he doesn't care. But there are others that need that prize in front of them. They need that target to go run toward. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of things in play. It's good for boxing. It calls attention. It creates some tension and dynamics. It creates my guy's going to beat your guy. And there are real 50-50 fights here. We have needed this for 18 months. It's good news.
Yeah.
I will just say the devil's advocate is that
the devil don't need a lawyer.
Still.
I think Michael's starting to rethink this show already, and isn't even an hour.
No. The devil doesn't need a lawyer, but unfortunately, he has far too many of them.
Oh God.
The other side of that is that undisputed cruiserweight champion moved up and beat whatever you want to say about Joshua. The resume is better than. Do I think he's better than Fury? No. Is the resume better? Yeah. Is the resume better than Wilder? You compare the defenses, there's no doubt. So I'm just saying I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying there's an argument can be made. Let's move on to talk about the undercard here. Mainly Lawrence Okolie. Now, I've talked about him before. Not the biggest fan of his style. I felt that he's been boring up until the time he won the belt in his 2 fights back. Well, he fought on the undercard against in a mandatory by the name of Prasovic. Stopped him. I'll go to you, Gail and Sadette, since I believe you two ladies saw the fight. Your analysis, I know you were mentioning in the pre-show that he ended the fight, with a body shot, something you
Beautiful.
How did Okolie look in this fight? Like I said, I didn't see it, so I'm gonna rely on y'all.
Michael, I know what you think of Okolie. You've expressed your opinion, and you're far from alone. you might just have changed your mind a tiny little bit, or at least been willing to give him a chance after he took care of his mandatory challenger, Prasovic of Montenegro. He took him out with a crisp body shot knockout at 153 of round 3. He got it done. He went right after him. It was an easy night. And I'm sure that Okolie has heard the critics, like you, like a lot of other people, who say, sure, he's a champion at cruiserweight, but, he's the guy whose fight you take time to get up and head to the kitchen for snacks or to the bar for another drink. Because it's going to grind along fine and he's going to win, and that's all very nice, but he doesn't generate a lot of heat or excitement. Well, he did this time. It could have been his opponent. It could have been the setting, fighting at home in front of that massive crowd there to see the main event right after him. But the fact is, he did it. And good for him. I'm very curious to see what will happen. He now wants to unify titles with one of the other cruiserweight title holders. Of course, he called out the number 1 guy, Marius Briedis, but he said he'd take whoever he can get. And I do think it's going to be one of the other title holders. Briedis is at the top of the food chain. But props to Okolie. He did what he needed to do and then some.
Your thoughts on
I
that?
agree.
It looks fun. That body shot was beautiful, and it was the type of punch is like the way that man fell. You knew his entire soul was gonna hurt for like the next week and a half, and that's kind of cool in terms of like what we think about in terms of boxing and actually being the science and how it patches up to other things. But I can see what you say about it not being exciting and just not kind of like waiting, hit someone so hard they die. Where's the fun in it? Where's the thought in it? It's interesting because I think that there might be stepping up of like, okay, now that it's more fun to follow boxing. And I think for the reason Gail mentioned about heavyweight, but even with cruiser now, it's just like, it's more fun to follow boxing because it's less cult of personality right now. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's all shiny. Everybody's got weaknesses. Everybody has things we don't like too much. Everybody also has like fun power-ups, like he hits or he dodges. So you're watching matchups that look more like matchups now. It doesn't feel as like esoteric and side to side. You have to have like the cult of personality now. You watch the fight and it's like more dissection, more like how does this person jab? How does this person hit? And I like that.
His style is not aesthetically pleasing, but it gets the job done. I will give him that. And he has a belt. Let's see how it improves once he gets the belt. The old adage is what? You become 25% better as a fighter once you win a world title. Let's see where he goes from here. If he fights Briedis, Gail, my only hope is that he gets the fight in the UK. We all remember what happened when Briedis got that gift when he fought against Glowacki, throwing that elbow at the end of the second round. He should have been disqualified for that, but the referee, I don't know what the hell they was doing. He ended up stopping Glowacki in the third. It's a decent fight. If that's the route they're going, just have that fight happen in England. I don't want to see Okolie go to Latvia for that fight because I just don't think he'll get a fair chance. And we've seen evidence where
was this
gets the benefit of the doubt.
Prasovic, he was offered step aside money and he turned it down, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he wished he took that step aside money.
Yeah. Now, Michael, it wasn't necessarily the location. It wasn't the fact that the Glowacki fight took place in Riga. It was the fact that Robert Byrd had the worst night of his life as the referee. Absolutely ridiculous. So, as long as that doesn't happen, I think they'd be fine. The truth is, Briedis is a huge draw in Eastern Europe, in Germany. There's a lot of places that maybe there could be a third-party location other than the UK. But Briedis is the A side this time. So we'll see what happens.
Put up the Hearn money. Put up the money, Hearn.
Put up the Hearn
Put up
money.
the money, Hearn. Put up the money, Hearn. Get. You know, I don't want to see it. I don't think it's a coincidence. It's just that one night he just was off. I just don't. No, I ain't buying it. Let's move on to. I don't know if you ladies saw this fight. Fight took place in Japan, Kyoto to be specific. Kenshiro Teraji, WBC champion at 108 pounds, was attempting to make, I believe, the 9th defense of his title against mandatory challenger and countryman Yabuki. When I talked about this fight a couple of weeks ago, I made the mistake of saying that the champion was the taller and longer fighter, when instead Yabuki was the taller and longer fighter, and he used that height and reach to full advantage in this contest. Yabuki was number one contender, but he was considered a pretty sizable underdog, but he got the jab popping early and often, and Teraji is a guy who likes fighters to come to him. He was made to fight on the front foot. He just couldn't get past, he just couldn't get away, couldn't get inside of that reach, couldn't get inside of that jab. It kept popping him all night long. And the thing that surprised me about Yabuki wasn't just the jab, but the combination he was able to get off with following the jab. He started the tire 7th, 8th round. Teraji rallied, right? And at one point, it looked like he was going to cave in Yabuki, but then things changed in round 9. The champion got cut, became distressed big time, and then from nowhere, the challengers picked up a second win, and from there, he just went balls to the wall, hurt Teraji, and took him out. Finished him off with a series of punches with Teraji out on his feet on the ropes. One of the upsets of the year, I would consider, for this year, particularly when it comes to the smaller men. I suspect it will be a rematch. It was a very good fight. You can find the fight on YouTube. Even though Yabuki had the better of it throughout, it was one of those fights where it was kind of one-sided for the majority of the fight, but the guy who was losing was fighting, still plugging through and still competitive throughout, and it made it an exciting fight. And yeah, this should be a rematch. Will Teraji turn things around? I don't know. My problem is with him on the other side of that is it could be a case of him coming back too quick. For those who do not know, Teraji, around a month or so before the bout, contracted COVID.
He and his coach, wasn't it?
Yeah, but 2 weeks later, after contracting COVID in August, he tested negative, and his camp, I think, foolishly decided to reschedule the bout ASAP. In hindsight, maybe they should have taken some more time off.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we're all learning how hard it hits these guys. Even if they don't have symptoms, they weren't hospitalized, they train. I mean, ask Jamel Herring, ask Alexander Povetkin, ask Teofimo Lopez, who we didn't see in the ring, but it affects these guys. If nothing else, really, their conditioning takes a big hit.
There are hockey players who
you do not need that disadvantage in a tough fight. Kenshiro, on paper, should have won that fight easily, and he just didn't have it.
There are hockey players who have myocardic infractions that they're recovering from. People are going on permanent disabled lists.
Yep. And college football players too, is that it's hitting those guys hard. This is we're not here to talk politics, folks, but our athletes need to be very careful about how quick they get back in and make sure their trainers, their physios, everybody looking after them, doesn't let them harm themselves by their ambitions. These guys all want back in. I get that, but they got long lives to live after their days are over.
Emphasis on the not. Emphasis on the not, because one of my work is like misinformation, disinformation. Leave that alone. This is your job. Your body is how you are making your money. You don't believe in this, whatever. What are the tests that are being run? Who is documenting? Who is on you for your actual physical condition after this? Whether you believe in it or not. What are you running and doing to make sure that you are ready to do your job after? because there are a lot of people who are talking. It's like, it's not that bad and blah, blah, blah. Ego, I'm in great condition. There's a lot of responses where you are in great condition. You're in the prime of your life. You get over it. You getting over it does not also talk about the extended list. And you are an athlete. You are not a weekend warrior, boo-boo. This is where your money comes from. Say whatever you have to do to get to your followers or get your money. At that point, whatever. But are you making sure that you can continue to do what you need to do after you're done?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very well said. And I feel for these guys because, especially if, they are been confused by some of the information out there, and there's a lot of crazy stuff. It's not difficult to be confused about it. And then you find yourself on the other side of this thing and it affected you. It's hard for all of us to admit that we were wrong about something. Really hard. But this is your life and your health. You've got, and you are the perfect role model for so many people to say, hey, here's my experience with this. Here's what happened. And you need to be careful about how this affects you. You don't need to die from COVID for it to really hit you hard the rest of your life. That to me is almost worse.
They need to listen to their own bodies. Ultimately,
absolutely.
Warriors, and then the people around them. They can't have yes men around them. They have to have people that are telling the truth. If you don't feel good, then we're just gonna not do this.
Well, you know how hard that is because, let's face it, those guys are, a lot of people around them are dependent on these athletes for their income.
And we are running out of the game. We are running on positive vibes and blah, blah, blah. And I only want to hear positivity. Okay, dude.
True.
But here I am positive. I want you to get an echocardiogram.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely.
That's my positive. I'm positive that I care enough about your life that you can still do this after.
And not many people have those people around them, unfortunately, in boxing. It's sad.
Yeah, because the cutman, the trainer, the
Everybody's
gym, the nutritionist, they don't get paid till the fighter's paid.
Facts.
And I've known a lot of several people who passed away from this who were considered healthy people, So I can just imagine like the long-term effects that fighters feel after they contract this disease. So, everybody's different and their body reacts different, but there's definitely long-term effects from this. So,
I mean, one of the things, and I know we're talking sweet science, but let's talk combat sports. Habib, when his father died early on, all of the mess that was going around, the way people were just kind of picking it up and doing whatever. He won the fight. Have we heard from him mostly ever again since?
Well, I will say, if you haven't heard it, it's well worth hearing Khabib's interview with Mike Tyson on his Hot Boxing podcast, which is been maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. Very interesting. Very, very entertaining. But yeah, he's out. He's done. He was true to his word. One of those very few guys that goes out on top. I mean, you've got Khabib. You have Andre Ward, who walked out at a high note. You start having trouble figuring out anybody else to add to that list?
I could, but Calcite Galaxy back in the early 90s. Outstanding junior bantamweight champion. There are other examples, but in terms of this fight with Shiro, it's just a combination of things that caused his demise ultimately. Probably coming back too quick from this virus, 1, and 2, the style of Yabuki just gave him fits. They'll probably fight again, and he's going to have to do some searching. First of all, has to make sure he's 100% physically. But from a technical standpoint, he's going to have to solve that puzzle because he got stopped this time. It's going to be tough beating him in a rematch. It's going to be tough.
Yabuki's counter for he was ready for that fight. So, sometimes it's just your day.
He was sky high. Let me give a shout out to some folks in the live YouTube chat. Intangible Boxing. The homie from the West Coast, Dan the Man Boxer. I've been knowing him for years out there in LA. And you know this person, Sadet, 1/5 of the Nerdgasm Noir crew, Maria, who's listening to us live on the show. Shout out to Maria. If you have any, first of all, to the folks who are checking us out live or who will check us out later on YouTube, if you like what you're hearing, please be a friend and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for those who will check this show out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else in between. Please make sure to subscribe. If you're checking us out on Apple Podcasts and want to leave a review, please do so. 5-star review will get read. Let's get to the meat of the show. Got into this beforehand, before we went live on the air. We haven't talked the state of the game on this show in a while. I'm saving it for now. I've known all of these ladies. I've been getting to know all of these ladies in some capacity because of this pandemic and everybody's doing Zoom chats and whatever. So whether it's Minnie or Nika on a private chat between boxing writers, Sadet, with others in a Wednesday, Saturday. First time being here on the show with having Christine on the show. But anyway, because of this, we had a lot of private conversations, and I'm giving Sadet the floor now in the state of the game in terms of what's good, what's bad, what can be improved about the sport, because in one particular Zoom chat, we kind of took over that for a good 20 minutes or so.
It was, people were just watching me rant.
Yeah, and shout out to 2/5 of the Nerdgasm Noir crew, JP, who's also joined us. He said, hey, regular guest of the show, Daniel, he's also checking us out live. But yeah, you've been feeling some kind of way about the sport lately. So I will give you the floor to go off AWF and have the rest of the ladies bounce off.
I don't want to go off because I want to have a conversation, because part of the reason I was going off has to do with the fact that I think that a lot of us, I was excited to do the show, and I think a lot of us as women who grew up in combat sports, etc., talk about like the state of the game and the state of people talking about it and what it means. I grew up on boxing. I'm not necessarily the most versed in a lot of the technical attempts, but like I come from one of the countries that boxing made. I've watched it all my life. Our family was Lennox Lewis, the dreaded dandy, all of that. And I think what I went off, and I don't have as a former member of the Commonwealth, I don't have my good scotch, so I don't have my Dalwhinnie with me. But I feel some type of way about how, number one, there's become the atmosphere around it of this is like the men's and blah, 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 and the boys. And it will come to the Paul brothers. That'll be later, because that's probably what I was going off with. But I was watching the Muhammad Ali documentary, and we talk about poor men fight because fighting is the only time the world gives them rules and science for when it hits them. And what is boxing now? And we're talking about people who are not paying attention to their health. We're talking about people who are kikiing and showing teeth with these people who don't respect them. We're talking about people taking fights where your penalty is a tattoo of "I love." Like, you are. What does it mean for you to be in this ring? What does it mean for you to actually have this fight? Because you're getting punched in the face repeatedly. Why are you here? And the way it's talked about and connected, it feels a lot more like this is pop idol fandom in some cases than actually watching dudes box, watching people talk about the experience and the way that these are fighting traditions that have filtered down as martial arts in our cultures and anywhere from hundreds to millennia. And the thing that is exciting people in a lot of rigged ways is watching a fake a former basketball player be fought by a YouTube star, and the level of disrespect that is supposed to be just jokes heaped on, and watching these people who talk about manhood all day let that happen. I'm from New York, and when Nate Robinson lost, I was like, I don't understand how he has not been jumped. For the culture, for my city, somebody
I'm
get
from
it.
New York, and I'm also a Knicks fan, so it was like the double whammy. Yeah.
Hey, man, I wonder how in the hell that got sanctioned. That was some BS.
That was first of all, it was whack, and then you were like dudes who were just like, and I was just like, this can't be the New York I grew up in, because nobody's talking about going out to get him. How does this disrespect stand? When did we all become soft? But like, I think that's a deep question for like the largest state of boxing, and I think like this is the thing for me, because not just the wow, I don't need to watch really, really rich dudes who can pay for everything pretend that their conditioning regime is the same thing as boxing skills. And I don't need to watch the people who get paid to make them feel that way. Also, I'm not never going to be okay with somebody 5'6" holding up someone 6'2" and 60 pounds over than him, because the fight has to go the full round. And we all saw that. But this is making a lot of money. It's circulating a lot of money around dudes who are more part of the culture than actually like interested in the fight. And then like, how do you get people to have respect for fighting, wanting to actually learn the art, the science of combat? And when do you really start talking about like people could get hurt? People think this is funny. People think this is a game, and there's more and more of this. And like, who actually is standing for the sport? And how much of this is compounded on a lot of like really this God damn it, Maria. How many people are going to actually stay up and like, this is what we stand for? This is like not just about the spectacle. This is about how we love this thing we do. And meanwhile, let's flip it, because we have an all-women's panel. Let's look at what's happening in a lot of women's fighting, what they're doing. Clarissa Shields is collecting things. Why are we making that more interesting? Why are we pulling that up? But we're going to show after show after show after show of these random cokehead white boys? Really? All right. Yep. Okay. Only thing that's actually a question to me out is how much of an 8-ball you did. But you a fighter.
All right. I'm trying to say some Minnie, because I think you have some technical issues. Can you hear us?
Who, me? Yeah, I can hear.
Minnie. No, Minnie.
Oh, Minnie. Okay.
I don't hear anything. So what you may have to do, Minnie, is log off right quick and then try to log back on. Until then, I'll go to the comments. I'll anybody who wants to pick up or where Sadette left off, please do.
Well, also another ugly thing in boxing now is these fighters popping dirty, and not even a slap on the wrist. So it's like, what's the point of having these fighters get tested if we're not going to do anything about it? Like there are fighters that are losing their lives in the ring. There was, so it's like, what are we doing? Like, that's definitely an ugly part in boxing. Then I feel like this YouTuber, like what Sadette was saying, these YouTubers that are fighting, like, I feel like this is going to be a thing until somebody really gets hurt, which is going to happen. Somebody's really going to get hurt, paralyzed or something. It's definitely like, it's definitely in the works, So right now, they're getting their money, but once a fighter, I'm not even calling him fighter, once a YouTuber or their opponent gets really hurt, then they're gonna start looking into, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, So I hate that this is happening, because that's ultimately what's gonna have to end this, is with somebody get hurt or somebody dying in the ring, for these YouTubers to not be in the ring fighting like old retired basketball players. To me, it's crazy that they're making all this money over all these boxers who put their whole lives into dedicating their, blood, sweat, and tears, and staying away from their family for training, and they're getting pennies compared to these YouTubers that are like doing this as a joke. To me, this is a joke. It's a joke. Definitely a joke.
Problem is, there's an audience for it. There are people who are going to pay for it.
Yeah, but until when? Until somebody gets hurt?
And
then what?
Let's hope until they get bored. And we definitely see the numbers trending down a little bit. Triller is in huge problems of their own making. I'm not sure they're going to put on any stunt fights again anytime soon.
Say more, because I love that.
They're going to go forum shopping. The commissions who know what they're doing, who have some standards, who, stage the truly big, meaningful fights. Nevada, California, New York, New Jersey. They're not going to let this stuff happen. Florida, Oklahoma, Hinkley, Minnesota. I mean, they're going to go there.
Hinkley, Minnesota.
But that's where you've got the armory up there, and the tribal. And the problem is now you've got the tribal casino commissions, who are not controlled by any of the state commissions. This is the problem in boxing, and it's never
the problem with Valdez.
Well, and it's never it's never going to come under one sanctioning organization or promoter like you have with UFC. And let's think about it. You have all these UFC fighters who just can't wait, to get into the boxing ring. As long as they're no longer under contract to Dana White, who controls them, they want to get a piece of that money. He does not pay them well, not anywhere close to boxing, which is why his organization is in such good economic shape. He's built it on the backs of a lot of ambitious people. Yeah, Nikki YC, absolutely right.
Right.
The good thing is, it really is less damaging to somebody to get hit with one big punch, like a Nate Robinson. I mean, he really did get right back up. When you are beat up and chased around and battered around the ring and dropped and dropped and dropped and got up over 8, 10, 12 rounds, you might as well tie that person to the bumper of a truck and drag them down a bumpy dirt road. It's that bad, and it is far more damaging. The one-hitter quitters, they look horrible. They don't do anywhere near the damage. So I'm not sure we need to be, and in the end, Nate Robinson's a grown-ass man. He decided to get in there. Nobody forced him. And maybe a few of his friends will look at that and say, damn, I don't want anybody to see that happen to me. Forget it. I think this will pass.
Yeah, but
we've had stunt fights
a lot more than real boxers, which is sad,
Well, because the audience is there and the money is there. The one and only thing I'll say for Jake Paul, love him, hate him, there's really no in between. You either love him or you hate him. But he does seem serious about it. He is putting undercard fighters on his card.
I love
ask Amanda Serrano what she thinks about Jake Paul.
Yeah,
and I'll just
I don't love him or hate him, but yeah.
I think she sees like the bright lights that he's bringing, but I don't think
she doesn't see the bright lights. She sees the green paper bills he's handing her.
Yeah,
you fight for money.
But to me, that don't make him serious. To me, that don't make him serious about it. That's
let us hope so. For whatever reason,
in terms of Serrano, and in terms of Serrano, if that signing is not followed up with the fight against Katie Taylor, it means not a damn thing to me. Just saying.
Yeah.
I'll just give you my perspective really quick, and I have to disagree with Gail for a minute. I don't love or hate the Pauls. I really don't put much thought into them. I will say I'm blessed enough to be an Olympic coach here with Team USA, and I have a gym at home. And one thing that I've seen is that there are certain traits that bring kids in our doors and through our programs. It doesn't matter what race, creed, financial status that they come from. There are certain things that bring us all together. So in my thinking, the Pauls have those traits as well, or else maybe they would have chosen another sport or done something else. I think there are bigger travesties than I'm not fans of them, but I'm not fans. Like I just, I do love what Jake is doing with Amanda and women in boxing, because he is bringing her to a higher platform and paid her well than the last card that she was on with him. And I think that's fabulous. And as far as pets, I have to agree with Nika. I mean, it's always been a problem. The positive is now that we're seeing more of it, because now we're actually saying something and putting it out there. But it's always happened, unfortunately. You know, it's always been there. So the highlight is the positive is that now it's coming out more to the forefront. To me, right now, the worst travesty is when our retired champions come back to fight another fight. They
Yeah.
can barely talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
They can
Yes.
barely
Yes,
talk.
that is
They
a
can
good
barely
point.
walk. I see some of these champs, and I'm sure you all do too. You know, and you can't even have a conversation with them. And then I think, well, what about the people around them? Do they have to fight? Is it financial? Did someone not help them save and invest and all that? And that is another problem in boxing, that everybody has their hand out, but nobody has advice on how to invest your money, how to spend your money, because one day you may not be able to walk or talk, and you might have to get back in the ring the way things are happening now. If to me, if they're going to do that, which I'm totally against it, headgear and do it for charity. Um, and still, I don't like it. But you know what? Boxing has always had ups and downs. It's always had good and bad. And I love that we're coming back now out of this pandemic. The YouTubers, you know what? I think it's going to pass. And if it doesn't, well, there's an audience for them. But real boxing heads, I haven't seen one of those guys fight. Not one. And I believe that real boxing heads don't care to see them. So they have their own little group, their own little following. And hey, kudos to them. They're smart businessmen. They're making money.
Notice one thing I will never ever say, and I agree with that. They ain't stupid, and that's the thing that really bothers me sometimes about the discussion with them. It's like, no, that is purposely offensive, which is part of why I was so mad about the Nate Robinson. Like, he's not stupid. He is rude and disrespectful. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my anger is probably more faced with the people who prop that up. Like, if you are helping that happen, that says more about you than me.
It's money.
And are you going to come back and then say, well, I was never serious, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, you were willing to help them when you thought you were going to get paid. But what were you thinking about in terms of your larger scope, what you actually want to do, especially the language you are saying and describing that for? I think that it goes back to some of we talked about it a little but this idea of what does this mean to you? And how are we going to start talking about it from now on? And also, when is it going to be? We talk about the excitement coming back. That's what I want to talk about. Talk about the excitement coming back after 18 months. Like, what? I think it's a really great time for boxing to seriously consider what it wants to see, not just what it can sell.
I wish it was up to the fans. I wish it was, but.
One, is it time for boxers? Is it time for boxers to start a union? B,
yeah.
Is it time for the sport to be governized in one sense?
Yes, absolutely.
No.
Speak on it, Minnie.
I'm going to say yes, because we only hear about the Tysons, the Mayweathers, those that do so well and who are so extremely popular that they make those uber millions of dollars. And when you Pritchard Cologne, when you think about these types of fighters, so the little guys in this is a very subjective sport. And oftentimes we don't agree on scores ourselves, right? Like, we could all watch the same fight and all have a different score. But there are certain skill sets that must be met within each round that in order for you to give that person the point. And I think that there are if the same idea should be applied to ensuring that all fighters have a safety net. And right now, it's not really it's not secure enough to be safe for everyone. That's one. Two, if you're not a big name, like I think Gail was saying earlier, we have a jog, but we have all of these people in the background who want to who are biting at the bit to get a chance. But then, they're probably not going to get it, or their time will have passed. I'm not a big supporter and like, oh, pro union, but I think for some, for the sport of boxing, there needs to be a safety net, and I'm just gonna, I'm gonna leave it there. It needs to be something for these men and women to hold on to, have some sort of pension, have someone looking out for their health, other than the yes men that Sadette was talking about, and Christine and all of you. You need someone to say, no, sir, you cannot get into that ring, because the possibility of you dying is, real. I think they need it. They need to have something to fall back on. And right now we can see what happens as a result of them not having a union. So I'm sorry. I said all of that to say nothing at all.
Let's move forward. We've talked about the influence of the Paul brothers from good and bad, and we've talked about unions and governing bodies. Let's move towards the television, the network aspect of this. We've all been paying attention to the fiasco that is Teofimo Lopez and Kambosa's fight, right? It was supposed to happen this evening. It's been pushed back towards the 16th. Kambosa's trying to file suit, threatening that. I'm hearing now that the fight is going to be moved over, that Matchroom is going to take over the fight. Where does the influence of Triller, how does the influence of Triller, what role do they play in all of this?
Gil here is going to jump in. Other than this fight, nothing, really. I think that they've decided that this was a lot more difficult than it looked like. It all seemed like a lot of fun, and starting off with Mike Tyson gets you out of the gate with a bang. But that was an anomaly. And now they've got to do the hard grind of really working at this.
Right.
They brought on Peter Kahn, which is a problem since he was working with Kambosos. Kahn only, everybody got very excited about him being there because he is a real boxing guy who left after 6 months. That tells me that inside that organization, they're very dysfunctional. I think we've got another Rock Nation experiment.
Oh my God.
Going sideways. And let us only hope that they've learned their lesson and they do what they're good at. And you go ahead and keep doing the versus battles. They're fun. They're great. You want to dress them up with some other things and invite athlete, celebrity audience, or maybe you do a celebrity battle some point. But stay away from boxing. Come on.
I'm just
Some
saying.
People need to put their hand on the hot stove and get burned before they figure it out. And Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez were the hot burners they put their hands on. It's just been
I'm suspecting Bob Arum is sitting back in the cut, laughing, basically
Bob Arum.
I'm trying to tell you because
he's down to his gummies and he's smoking a cigar, laughing his ass off.
Bob Arum don't do no. Bob Arum don't. Bob no. Bob Arum. He don't do no gummies. He's smoking a split right now. Anyway, but still. Look, Tyson.
And he's got a good bottle of that whiskey you were looking for earlier there.
That too. Tyson and Roy Jones, respectfully, that is easy. Putting a MMA fighter on that card, that's easy. Over Kambosos, Teofimo and Kambosos, that's what a rubber meets the road. That's getting serious. They overpaid for that fight, number one, and it's been all kinds of hell trying to get that fight together. That's big boy stuff right here. This is adult stuff. Excuse me, not big boy, because boxing is men and women. This is adult stuff. This ain't kids shit. They're learning it now. Let's hope they learn their lesson.
Or they can do like 50 Cent did, and when your fighter loses, you run out of the stadium. Who was that? Gamboa? Who
Gamboa.
Was it that
I think it was Gamboa.
he left the arena. Unbelievable.
if these kids and other people watch it don't see that quick money is not secure money, you know, they thought they were going to make so much money, this quick money, and do all these wonderful things. And I know Peter jumped ship too. It is a train wreck, you know, everything they've done. And you know, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure that it wasn't going to last long. I mean, we just sat back and just waited for it to crash and burn. It was too much too soon, you know, too much too soon.
They're a music platform, so that's their thing.
You stick to it.
Yeah.
I thought the fight was going to be this weekend.
It was supposed to be today.
Tonight.
It was supposed to be
tonight.
today.
Then I thought they changed it to the weekend.
I think like it says something at that point that we don't know when it's supposed to be. Like that tells you something. Right? Don't y'all have to get
because Teofimo signed for the 16th and have it at Barclays, but Kambosos hasn't signed on his side. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he hadn't signed.
And yeah, that we've talked about the bad, the ugly. What's good about the sport right now?
We're all here talking about it.
Outside of that, are we seeing enough of the fights that we want?
You know, sometimes the
no,
fans
explain
don't.
Why.
Sometimes the fans don't know what they want. You know, yeah, boxing has a lot of negatives. It's a rough sport. It always has been. It's the Wild West. It channels, you know, our aggressive, primitive nature. It does, and we all have to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we have had more unifications of divisions than in a long, long time, if not ever before.
Mm-hmm.
We managed to keep the sport going during the pandemic when a lot of other sports were completely off the field. You know, say what you will about Bob Arum in Top Rank and Eddie Hearn in putting on his fight camps in England, but they kept it going. And
we needed
saw
it.
some damn good fights.
Yep.
Sure, a lot of them were prospects and journeymen, and you know, nobody really expected Clay Collard to suddenly become a household name, but good for him. He made some dough. He's back over at the PFL, and everybody's watching him, and he's in championships at this point. So there's still a lot of positives. And let's just look at Manny Pacquiao, who just retired.
Yeah.
Look at where he came from. It's hard to even put yourself back that far to think about a skinny little kid who boxed because his family was hungry, who was walking on dirt streets with no shoes, who by sheer will and guts has a chance, maybe not a great chance, but a chance to become president of his country, who's still one of the biggest household names in sports around the world, as universally liked an athlete as there is. Yeah, he said some stupid things in the past. He owns them. Nobody's perfect, but
yeah, we all do. We all see.
In the end, he's been a one-man social services operation. He's built schools. He has built hospitals. And you know, he started years ago waking up every morning and when he's in country, he hands out money. He still does that. He's generous to a fault. Actually, that's part of his problem. He gives a lot of it away. Boxing has, you know, there's a cliche that boxing has saved more lives than it's cost. And it's true. Even for people who never become a champion or never make a fortune, it's kept them out of jail. It's kept them off the streets. It's helped them beat addiction. It's helped them beat depression. Tyson Fury will tell you.
Yes.
It's helped him beat both. So I'm not ready to give up on boxing just yet. I will admit, as I get older, I have a harder and harder time watching a fight that's a complete slugfest to the end, knowing what those guys are going through.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure I'll ever watch a fight like Salido and Vargas again with as much enthusiasm. But other than that, may it continue. hopefully stay healthy and well governed. Let's hope that we someday do get a handle on the drug issue. But
Yeah.
we do have some brave souls out there that are super clean, have always been.
Yes.
Nonito Donaire, Jamel Herring.
Yes.
There are many others. And those are the guys that, we should be celebrating, buying tickets, watching the pay-per-views, wearing their swag.
Absolutely.
The fact that Usyk beat Joshua is that's a good thing. The fact that Eddie Hearn is making a serious investment when it comes to women's boxing, that's a good thing. The fact that Clarissa Shields is not just winning, but getting a spotlight, and starting to get some serious money. That Sky deal is going to be big for her, and it looks like she's going to fight Savannah Marshall next year. That's a good thing. The fact that Aram invested in a way, not just signing him to a deal, but bringing him to the States. You didn't see that 10, 15, 20 years ago. The spotlight on the little guys, those are all good things. So even say what you want about Canelo, the diva that he is, in many ways, and he is annoying in terms of how he picks opponents and whatever. That's why I wasn't mad that why Caleb Plant got in his face like he did. Overall, he's a good thing.
Just don't eat the Mexican meat. Just saying.
Word. And his trainers, it's not just a one-time thing. Giving Valdez, that looks to be a problem right now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Get your shit together. Just saying. The fact that we continue to have young talent come up, whatever you may think about it, whatever you may think about Garcia, whatever you may think about Tank, the fact that we got unified champions, Josh Taylor, hello,
Yeah,
arguably the fighter of the year, or the leading contender, candidate for it. Come on. So as much as we talk about the sport, there's still some positive things. Let's end this conversation in terms of what fights would you want to see and what improvements would you want to make in and outside the ring? First and foremost, along with the pensions and maybe a governing body, for me, can we get rid of the myth of the undefeated fighter? It's like Floyd carried that to his last days in the ring, made that part of his MO, the part of his promotion, and too many guys in 2021 try to hold on to that mantle. The problem is they're not fighting the best of the best, too many of them. They're just relying on that undefeated record, not understanding old school principles. You fight tough, and just because you lose doesn't mean you're done. Let's get rid of that undefeated BS. That's my rant, but whoever wants to carry the conversation, please do.
But doesn't Mayweather sit outside of that as well? Because he's one of those proponents of, hey, he will even tell you, we need to get rid of that misnomer that you lose a fight and you're done. He has, the fighters under his promotional company. He's always pushing that idea. But then again, Mayweather,
the problem is there are too many clips of him promoting a fight and always talking about his undefeated record.
Yeah, but that was
I feel like he cancels that out.
During his time, that was, we're talking, we're 10 years removed from, his last big,
we also got
fight.
To realize he only fought in Vegas. For a lot of boxing people know why he only fought in Vegas, and that had a lot to do with his outside of Vegas would he have been. So it's really just a myth. It's really not even, it's a fairy tale, I mean, we have champions of the past that had 2 and 3, 4 losses and then come back to be world champions. It's like, so that I don't even like think about that, because we know why he was fighting in Vegas and why he had we've seen him get beat before.
I'm not going to go that far, being that I write for Mayweather. I'm not going to go that far. I respect what you said, but I also think that Mayweather is one of the true technical fighters of not just our generation,
no doubt,
but of all times. But then again, I'm a huge Sugar Ray Robinson fan, and he lost what 20 something, some ridiculous number.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at it, and to me, in my eyes, he's the best fighter that in my eyes. So I'll cut,
absolutely
folks some slack, but what I would like to see happen in boxing, I have a love-hate relationship with this sport. There are days where I'm looking at a fight, or I'm looking at the judges, or I'm looking at the referee do a 30 count on what should be 10 seconds, and I'm like, I'm never gonna watch this again. Then Friday or Saturday rolls along, and I'm like, oh, let me go watch this. So I think we all, at the end of the day, I'm a huge fan before I'm a writer or anything else. And it's a brutal beauty that is intrinsic to this sport, and it draws you. And I'm happy we're getting the attention that we are. I'm happy to see more women being respected in the space. That has not always happened. And I want to see more of that. I appreciate you, Michael, for reaching out, for not making us feel uncomfortable by not babying us, by allowing us to have an opinion and combating it, as well as welcoming our opinions. So I think the sport needs more of that.
Surprising to me.
One small little thing, Gail, if you don't mind.
Sorry.
In terms of minis, within the midst of minis, talk about a referee, a 30 count versus a 10. Can we get Lawrence Cole the fuck out the paint? I'm tired of him. How many times? Why does he continue to get opportunity after opportunity when he knows he's an F-up?
We all know why. You know what? These guys become very tight. The state commissions. It's like, if any of you have ever had the experience of having to take the car keys away from an older adult, it is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do in your life, right?
You are right.
That's what needs to happen. And it's just as hard. It's just as hard. I'm very well acquainted and used to work with. Well,
in this equation, the older fighter is Evander Holyfield.
Right.
Who let that happen, and why?
I know. But you know what? That's an anomaly. For the most part, really, the referees are the only friend that fighter has in the ring. Their trainer is beholden to them for money. Their cut men beholden to them for money. The promoter is beholden to them for income. So they have to rely on that person. And by and large, the good ones are very good. Yeah, some of them have a style we don't particularly agree with, but they get criticized for stopping a fight late. They get criticized for stopping a fight early. Yeah, I've seen some boneheaded things, and they do need to own up to mistakes, but most of them do. Most of them study, but age does take its toll, and it's hard to see when it's you. It really is. And we have a senior generation of referees coming to the end of their careers, and it's just like the fighters. They don't always know when it's time to leave. I'll tell you the thing that I would like to see. I'm not the biggest fan of unions because it's sort of it rewards people equally who work hard and don't work too hard sometimes. But what I would like to see is some kind of self-financed insurance within boxing for the fighters, to take care of them when something does happen, to look after their health.
Like
a lot of big companies self-insure. A lot, it's cost effective. Obviously, there's a whole lot of risk here, unlike some of the employers we work for, but There are also employers in very dangerous professions, mining, construction, offshore fishing.
Law
They insure their employees. I'd like to see boxing insure these young guys and young women. That I think would be a good step in the right direction.
Before
and Michael, I will mention that you reminded me of something I've talked about many times here. I won't bore the audience by going on and on about it, but yes, 3-minute rounds in women's boxing. Thank you.
Woo!
Been a while since we heard from you, Naka. Your thoughts?
Well, what I think needs to be fixed in boxing is the refereeing, because we are seeing that these referees they have an agenda and they're calling fights like blatantly racist. Because I mean, the Michael Fox fight, do I even have to bring that up?
Dear God.
When they researched her page, she was like one of the most racist persons on Twitter. So they need to do better research on these referees.
Yeah.
The testing for these fighters, there need to be more. The consequences from these tests have to be enforced. Yes. Because fighters are losing their lives in the ring. They're being paralyzed for life. So those are my two things that I feel like they need to be worked on in boxing, because it's just not only affects the fans, more importantly boxers themselves. So people, they literally are risking their lives in the ring, and when you have referees that are not, and judges, I mean, because the judges is what I want to say, the judging, because these cards, like every time I'm on Twitter and I see like the rants that go on after fights, is because the judging cards are like disgusting. And then the judge, the Michael Fox judge, like, she wasn't quick enough to delete her Twitter before we all investigated her account to see that she was a racist. So Michael Fox, who already went in there 4 cards down, So to me, it's crazy that this is like allowed, and there's not really nothing being forced or anything being done about it. So
right on.
Go to you, Christine. What do you think can be done to improve the sport? Any fights you would like to see? And then, since we began the conversation with you, Sadat, you can end things off.
No pressure.
Gail mentioned something, and she said, give the women, 3 minutes. The women want the 3-minute rounds, but they also want to get paid for that, like the men do. So, I think until that happens, then they just want to stick to how it is. Especially the higher level, the Kayla Mayer, but I do think that has to happen, Clarissa Shields and so everybody else. But I'm a boxing head. Love it. There's good, bad in every sport, in every aspect of our lives. The fight that I want to see is definitely the Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford fight. I don't think that Errol Spence is going to be coming back, and if he is, I don't think he should. So that's
right
out of the way.
Right.
But I appreciate you having me on, and allowing me to come on and speak and stuff, and with other ladies, and I think it's amazing. So thank you so much.
No problem. We still got one more fight to discuss, but your last words on this today.
I think I came back to boxing during the pandemic, and because I talk about growing up, but like really seeing how important it is to people, how much fighting and the concept of like it's being ingrained in something we love. There is no other sport that I follow that is not scripted, that allows you to put so much of yourself into it the way boxing does. I don't think that there is the power to change worlds, what draws you. And so many people, when we think about, Gail mentioned this, recovery. No, I think this was mini actually, but like recovery, changing your life. That's boxing. Bringing kids into spaces. That's boxing. That is something that I think is very important, and I think that it's very exciting to start seeing like, no, this is how we're gonna come back. This is how we're trying to bring it back. We're trying to raise back the interest and to start seeing people sneak into, not even sneak in, but want to go into rings, want to go into the next kickboxing classes and going into actual boxing gyms from kickboxing classes, and get more desirous of like getting into this point where they have that deep communion with their body has been amazing. In terms of the professionals fight, I want to see is the first time Clarissa Shields headline something. I think that's going to be a moment, and I think that's coming closer than we think. When we start,
that will be Marshall when she gets that big headline. Book it. It's going to happen next year.
But I think like that ability for us to start letting boxers of all genders start to tell those narratives, those deep dream stories that start not just in the, hey, you're punching people in front of me, but let's start this in Flint, Michigan, the way we started in Louisville, Kentucky, the way we started in Brooklyn.
Ooh, yes.
Let's start connecting how much this sport has formed people and formed America. And let's start telling those real stories about what's been hidden and how we can have that in her. I'm going to like 3 fights. The next fight I really, really want to see is, everybody's gonna laugh, Fury Wilder.
This weekend's fight?
Yep.
Heck yeah. No one's laughing.
I want to see that one because I think as we've been talking, it's going to start to tell us some real special things about where boxing is going next and what people understand, because this is the fight after the guy everybody was chasing is put down. This was the fight that like they're talking about boxing, but most of the time it looked like clowning. But when you see Joshua go down and you see Usyk come up, how are they going to respond to the fact that this might be a game again? How are the younger bucks right under him going to respond? And this is actually a little more up for grabs. That I'm super excited to see where the science comes in more, less than the show. Because now everybody's not thinking just about let me knock him out or give the best show. Talking about, no, I actually have to put up a good showing because, hey, how do I argue for belts? How do I argue for my next step? Or how do I need to get the hell out the ring? And that, to me, that possibility is super, super exciting. It really excites me. But really the thing that I'm super excited to see is the first Golden Gloves match I can have in public with other people.
Oh, yes.
After this really makes me want to see boxing in person. Not just be in the gym, but like, what is after this time, what is the generation that has been through all of this gonna figure out in the ring? What's going to be the response to people being together in a ring after all of this and knowing what we know about America and our relationship to boxing? What is the first Golden Glove, the thing I really walk into as a spectator to see a fight?
Yeah, I'm from Texas, so we opened up and we had our Golden Gloves. It was great. It was magical.
Really? You said 2 things. What was the third?
No, that was the third one.
3 things. Okay. Let's move on to the big fight of the weekend. T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, the trilogy between Fury and Wilder. Fans know the deal. They fought twice before. First time December 2018. Fight was a draw. I felt that Fury did enough to win. I think outside of the rounds he got knocked down twice in that fight, rose up like the Undertaker from that knockdown the final round. Outside of those 2 knockdowns, I thought Fury boxed the shoes off. Second time they fought, and Fury said he was going to come in there and try to knock his head off, and he did. He was an absolute savage that night, and I say that in bad connotations, whatever you may think. That's what happened. He was a savage that night, to the point that it was one instance where Fury actually licked the blood off the dude's shoulder. Stopped him in the 7th round, won the title. Wilder made a bunch of accusations about, Fury's gloves was loaded, that they spiked his water, that he was off. he hadn't brought any evidence to the table, but he's continued to make these accusations. Arbitrator ruled that Fury, who was in the midst of negotiations for a fight against Joshua, arbitrator ruled in May that Fury must fight Wilder. They were originally set to fight in July. Fury came down with COVID. He's recovered now. They're going to fight this weekend. Let's go to you, Nika. Given all of that, the question is, given how Fury outboxed him the first time and bullied and beat him up the second time, what can Wilder really do to get this third fight?
He has to come in there with more than a 1-2.
Outside of just landing a punch. He landed that punch the first time and he rose like the Phoenix.
Yeah, he definitely has to come there more than a 1-2. I mean, his thing is the right hand. That's just what it is. But I feel like they've been working on more than just the right hand. But if he goes in there and that right hand is not landing for him, he's gonna be discombobulated, like, you know. Because when you go in there and you work on something, like you've been working on something for like a whole year and it's not working for you, you're gonna try to revert to what you're used to. You're always gonna go to what you know. And if that's not working for you, I feel like he's going to be in disarray. So I hope that that's not the case, because I love a good revenge story, you know. So I would like to see him get his back in blood on, but I just don't know how that will work if he goes in there with his new routine that he's been learning with Malik Scott. If that doesn't work for him, I just think ultimately he's going to revert to what he's naturally been doing all his fighting career, which is the right hand. So I honestly don't know who's gonna win this fight. I can't even really pick a winner. I feel like Deontay says, like, all he needs really like a good couple of seconds to get his right hand off. If that works for him, then the fight will be over. But you know, also, I feel like Fury hasn't really wanted this fight, to be honest. I feel like he's done everything in his power to not have this fight happen. But the courts ruled in Deontay's favor, so the fight has to happen. So I don't really think Fury is in it mentally like he was in the second fight, because he really doesn't want to fight, you know? So that's my opinion on that.
Interesting analysis from Nika, Gail, raising some questions about Fury. There was some issues with the fact that he tested positive for COVID. There was no real clarity in terms of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, the onus in many ways is still on Wilder. First fight with Malik Scott, he hasn't been in the ring in the interim. I'll say for the record, I didn't like at all the way things went down and how he gave Breland the boot. It was foul on his part, for more than just boxing reasons. Do you think that Scott can do anything? Because he doesn't have a reputation as this noted guy. Do you think that he could do anything? And I know we've seen a lot of videos, but that's one thing. Do you think the adjustments can be made by Wilder in this third fight?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask of Malik. It's a lot to ask of Deontay. You know, he has never really owned up to what went wrong publicly. Mm-hmm. I hope he's done it privately. We'll never know. Malik Scott obviously is somebody he's comfortable with. I have no issue with him as a trainer, but he's there to enable Deontay. He's not really there, I don't think, at this point, to challenge him. I hope he's helped him get his head on straight. But I'm remembering what we saw from the gym with Manny Pacquiao, who looked spectacular, who was training like crazy, who was doing his runs up to Griffith Park with this posse of fans. showing the old flash. And then he got in the ring, and unfortunately, Father Time had caught up with him. He'd overtrained for his age. That was really a shame. So we can't put a lot of stock in what we're seeing from the gym. Can Wilder win? Oh, heck yeah, of course he can win. What makes him so dangerous is that unknown of, can he land the right hand? He's always got that. He's still got that. But he doesn't have a lot of other tools in the toolkit. You know, he's got one really big tool, but Fury has more ways he can win. So if Fury can't keep Wilder off him, or keep him at range and outbox him, let's say that Wilder and Malik Scott, for all they've said about going into Crush Fury, you know, maybe their true plan is they're going to stink it up in a technical fight and outbox him and frustrate him. Well, if that happens to Fury, he's the much bigger man, and what he should do with the smaller man is lean on him, wear him out, crowd him, crush him. Don't let Wilder get the trajectory with a big right hand that he can loop around and land. So Fury is going to be able to adjust in the ring in ways that I'm really not sure Wilder can. So I think we'll see a better Wilder. I think we'll see him certainly redeem himself from the embarrassment that was the last fight, without question. But I don't think he's going to win. I think we're going to see a slow motion version of what we saw in February 2020, and it won't be over in 5 rounds. It'll be over in 10 rounds.
I'll go to you, Sadet. You just mentioned that this is a fight you're really looking forward to seeing. Give you a breakdown for us.
I was watching some of the videos, and I think what Gail says is true, but I'm also back to what I'm interested in this fight, because I think it's going to tell us what these men think about boxing and how long they're going to be staying in it. Because that big right hand, the ability to dance and, oh, I want your blood, blah, blah, blah. I've seen that you can talk it. How are you going to train so that you actually win? Are you basically like, are you going to, have you developed a new strategy besides like, let me hope I land my right, I'm smarter, I'm going to slip? Are you going to start looking at these opponent for opponent? Deontay Wilder, I like the fact that you said enabled, because I'm so great, I'm old, yada. Okay, dude, how come you didn't put up all that mouth in those fights? If I see someone who has come to have the fight he's supposed to have, or the fight right in front of him, I think it's an exciting round. I think it's an exciting thing. I think in what I've seen in some of their camp stuff, I think he actually looks more focused than Fury. Absolutely. Does that mean something though? And I think that's the thing we're going to find out in this fight. Is he more focused? Yes. Does that change how he actually does his stuff? Does that mean he comes out with a plan besides hitting somebody? I don't know. I really don't know. And I think for Fury, I don't think he's actually ever stopped viewing this fight as a barrier between him and Joshua. And I think he likes the idea of fighting Joshua partially because of like the UK mythos and being the guy to fight the other one. But also I think in a lot of ways, Joshua's style is much more comfortable to him. It's going to be someone you are much more comfortable fighting. And if Deontay Wilder does what he's supposed to do, that is something that Fury's not prepared for. Someone who's a little more off kilter, who's not just going to be solid, basic punch, so you look flashy in comparison. I don't think Fury really has dealt with a straight up wild card in a way that Deontay Taylor has a possibility to be. Now, whether or not he does that, I don't know.
Wilder has the greatest equalizer in the sport, right? Mm-hmm. One punch, he can take anybody out. He's proved it before. He almost did it in that first fight. However, because of how those fights ultimately went,
Fury got up.
It's you're right. It's a wait and see. I think the universal theme I'm getting here from everyone outside of Christine, we hadn't heard her breakdown, is that have to see it to believe it in terms of Wilder and what he claims he can do and what he's going to do on the night. Let me play the other side of that. Given how Fury outboxed him first time, dominated him second time, is there a possibility that he could come into this fight overconfident?
And you're talking about Wilder.
I'm talking about Fury because of how the fights went, and he won and won the first, not won the first fight. It was a draw, but I felt he won. How he just pumped him in that second fight. Is there could he be overconfident in coming into this third fight?
No, I don't think Fury has that in him, and I think that's the big draw for him and Joshua, is just given the history, like Sadet was saying, on gypsies and how they were treated in Europe, how they're still treated in Europe. I think that he does a lot of talking. However, he is we can all see the humility in Fury. My whole thing is even just having Christine on here is really awesome, because we're talking about Wilder changing trainers. You were with Mark for decades. This man saved your life in the ring, and you punished him for it. And then we have to look at the fact that Wilder is a one punch, like you all said, a one punch wonder, and he's a puncher. He's not a boxer, and Fury is a complete boxer. So Fury gets the third one. You can't just change trainers. And if you think that the problem was your trainer, then you have more issues than what we're talking about here, because we all saw those fights. So I don't know. He's one of those people kind of like Joshua. I like Joshua. Think he's a nice guy. He really is. He's good for the sport. However, you got to clean house. You got to be serious about getting into that ring. And so I'll leave it there.
Let's end this conversation with the coach, Christine. You teach guys and ladies, you coach guys and ladies. You're intrinsic. You're in the thickest of this game, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Your breakdown, your analysis, the keys here for both men.
We all know that boxing is mental. Most of it is mental. You can be in shape, you can be the best boxer, but if your head's not right, things aren't going to go your way. You can beat somebody who's the best if your mental game is on and theirs is not. I have to really question Wilder's mental game right now. I want to know why he picked Malik Scott. I mean, they fought. He knocked him out in 3 seconds. What did he think that he was going to bring to him differently than Breland? Who had been an Olympian and a trainer forever, right. and so then you think, okay, what's going through your mind? Just the way he's been acting as well. Fury is not going to stand in front of his right hand. I mean, anybody with a brain is not going to do that, because that is the killer punch. And if he thinks he's going to stand in front of him like that, he's wrong. And, Fury, we only see what Fury wants us to see with the videos coming out and the training and everything. We don't really know how hard he's training or not. I believe that he is. He's even said Wilder is dangerous. He's one of the most dangerous men that he's ever been in the ring with. And it's true. I don't think that he's taken this fight lightly. So whatever he's putting out or whatever on social media, he's training, trust me. He's not stupid. I think it's going to be another Fury win. I really do. I'm excited to see the fight because there's been so much build up of the new trainer, all these things that were going on with Breland and the allegations. So I'm excited to see this fight, but then I want to put it to rest. I want us to be done. I don't want to see 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm done after this. May the best man win.
Are we all in agreement here that in picking Fury for this fight?
I am.
I don't know. I feel like Deontay really has something to prove, so I'm not gonna X him out, but I won't be surprised if Wilder wins. I mean, if Fury wins neither. So it's like, that's why this is such a good rematch.
Yeah,
a good trilogy, because you really don't know who's gonna take this. So,
well, I think it's 3-1 Fury, but may the best man on the night win.
And what say you, Sadet?
I say it's probably Fury. However, if any knockout occurs in this fight, it's going to be Wilder.
One final question from Daniel here in the chat. How much will COVID play a factor with Fury, especially given what we talked about, or what I talked about earlier with Kenshiro?
Did he really have COVID?
Yeah, because they said he couldn't prove
that part.
He didn't turn in the test. He didn't turn in the test results or something. I read something.
That part.
So I don't know.
What?
Fury is a nut.
Yeah, like I said, there was rumors that he only took one shot instead of two. One vaccine shot instead of two. We don't know. They said he tested positive, but we never saw anything saying he tested. No conclusive results.
Yeah, did De La Hoya? I mean, did any of these guys? Did Lopez? Did they?
So there's that. Call folks conspiratorial, but yeah, until we see something conclusive, that shit is kind of up in the air. Just saying. So I guess it's what 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the possible for Spade's analogy.
5 in the possible.
Let's do that.
5 in the possible.
But I'll tell you, I guarantee you it's unanimous that we want a good, competitive, entertaining fight with both guys at their best, no matter what.
Yes. Two healthy men in the ring going at it. Yes. I'm with it.
And I think we're going to shut things down on that note. I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live chat. It was popping in it tonight, Gail. Shout out to Daniel, who's a regular on the show. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to JP. 2/5 of the Nerdgasm Noir crew. Shout out to DeVell. Shout out to Emma. New York Nikki, I'll say, because there's a New York Nikki, isn't there? There's a Chicago Nikki. New York Nikki. Intangible. Dan the Man. Out there in Cali. I want to thank all of them for checking us out in the live. Indeed. In the live YouTube chat. Again, as I said earlier in the show, if you like what you heard, please click that like button. Please make sure to subscribe. If you're checking us out live, or you're going to take delay on YouTube. If you're checking the show out on Apple Podcast or Anchor or Spotify, any of those platforms, please subscribe to it as well. We'd really love to hear a review from the show on Apple Podcasts, and when you do so, make sure you use the pound for pound boxing logo with the black and the gold, red and gold lettering. The old one with the gray, that's from prior episodes. I updated the logo quite earlier this year, so please, leave a review. 5-star review will get read on the show. I'm going to go around the panel here. Let's start with you, Gail, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk media, because you do teach media on the side, or for those who want to check you out on a semi-regular basis on TMZ Live, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yes. Well, I will be in Las Vegas ringside for this fight. Looking forward to it. This will be the first indoor fight I've covered since Fury Wilder 2. So I'm back at the scene of the crime. Go figure. The only other cards I've covered have been outdoor and in Southern California. So here we are. And you'll be able to read my work on Communities Digital News, which is COMM Digi, D-I-G-I News, comdiginews.com, and on nyfights.com, run by Michael Woods, formerly editor of Ring Magazine. And the difference is NY Fights, that's where I get to swear.
Want to give a personal shout out to my brothers over at Three Kings Boxing, your source for boxing information. Please check out threekingsboxing.com. The man who runs the ship, the HNIC of Three Kings, 2K, head of media relations, Bo, who we both interviewed, Michael Hunter, heavyweight contender Michael Hunter over the weekend, lead writer Bakari, fellow senior writer Jarrell, as well as the editor of Three Kings Boxing, Red. threekingsboxing.com. You can check them out on Twitter, IG, Facebook. I know Facebook was down, so if you didn't see any articles up on the Facebook page, that's why. But yeah, black owned, black operated, all black staff. Three Kings Boxing, your latest for boxing information. I'm going to go around to the rest of the panel. Let's go to Nika, her and the Red Cup. For those who want to talk the sweet science, let the folks know where they can follow you.
They can follow me on Twitter under boxing_bird81, and on YouTube and Instagram, Knockouts with Nika. And then, I always on Christine's Women Crushing It Wednesdays on her YouTube, In the Ring with Christine. So yeah, you can find me there.
I'll go to you, Meaning Larry. For those who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you.
If you ever just want to talk or yell at me or anything like that, please go to @Minnie on Twitter, or you can read some of my work on Jeff Mayweather's ProBoxingInsider.com.
Absolutely. Thank you. Go to you, Christine. For those who want to talk the sweet science or anything else, or check out all things coaching in terms of the amateur game. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Definitely, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, In the Ring with Christine. And like Nika said, we have a show on Wednesdays, Women Crushing It Wednesdays. It's 7 Central, 8 Mountain. I'm Mountain right now, so 8 Mountain. And yeah, definitely. I've done pretty much. I've done a lot, so I have a lot to talk about, and I love questions.
And last but certainly not least, Sadet, my boxing sisterin. For those who want to talk the sweet science or anything else, because a Twitter account is pretty fire, I have to say. Let the folks know where they can hit you up. And I know you was in the process of developing a podcast yourself. If you want to give some insight on that, please do.
In the I am Black Amazon on Twitter. I'm do mostly internet and kind of misinfo things, and wildly part of my interest, like one of my favorite things, are stunts, fights, and wrestling. So on those prescribed nights, you will listen to me talk about wrestling, was my favorite, but also boxing. The podcast, which I am working on, we are slightly on hold due to an illness with the fam, but it's called Dancing Murder Mavens. And it's about 3 of us. We have backgrounds in art, martial arts, dance, and comms, and talking about what those mean, and specifically as non-men, women, women, and non-gender binary people. What does it mean for us to be violent, and how have we learned and experienced fighting, and what is exciting us about looking at it in these days? And I'm always excited to talk about it because I think more than anything, movement, but especially combat, tells us a lot about what we value as a society. And also women and non-gender binary people tell us a lot about what we hide in the society. And watching and listening and be able to discuss in moments like this are really great to start filling out the story. And it's super exciting to do some of that with y'all. And also, specifically being a woman online, knowing that a lot of times when you try to discuss anything that shows your expertise and your love of something, it gets
Go
really
back to the kitchen.
or just the rudeness. And I'm a Far Rock Philly, so there are ways that I can take it. I've taken a couple punches, I can run my mouth, but there are sometimes where it's just like, I want to talk about this in a way that honors how much I love it without the stress. I don't need to. Sir, you just got here. I've been here my whole life. Like I'm like, I don't want to do that. So this is always lovely.
First and foremost, I want to thank each of you for blessing me with the opportunity of being on this particular episode tonight. You pushed me, but I had fun.
Grow from love.
The game of competitive banter. I love it. Whether in boxing or, as you know, Sadet, even outside the sweet science, right? I'm all about it. It was respectful throughout. I learned something. I hope everybody learned something too from this discussion of this evening. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk music and fitness, you know what it is with me, Brother JR at Brother JR 776 on Twitter. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to check out all things regarding the show, the site is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.com. If you want to email us, please do so, p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. On the site, I need to get it updated because I'm behind putting up episodes. You'll find links to where to follow us all over social media, where to follow us all over the podcast realm, where you can donate, and also the links to my coaching page. On the next episode, we will do a recap of not only Fury Wilder 3, but also some fights on that undercard, because this show went so lengthy. Didn't have the time to talk about it tonight, but we would make sure to discuss some other matches that was part of that card, and we will do a preview of, let's hope it happens, fingers crossed, Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos is scheduled to be the 16th. Hell, we don't know. Lopez finally making his first defense of the unified WBA, WBO, IBF 135-pound titles. Also on that same night, the return of Mikey Garcia. He's fighting over on DAZN.
Yes.
Right. Elvin Soto, he's defending his WBO junior flyweight belt. Also that same day, Savannah Marshall, who we talked about a little bit in the context of Clarissa Shields, she's going to defend her WBO women's middleweight bout. And for those who get the chance, please watch Savannah Marshall. The reason I'm so adamant about mentioning her is because I think she is the toughest, or will be the toughest, fights of Shields' career. And I'll say it here right now. If/when they do get in the ring, if she beats Shields, don't be surprised. I'm just saying, do not be surprised. So we will discuss all of those bouts and a whole lot more. So again, I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live chat. Once again, Alma, Maria, Daniel, the Nerdgasm Noir crew, Devel, Witch Sister, aka Nakenge, New York Nikki. Who else I'm missing? Intangible, Dan the Man. Thank you all for joining us in the live chat. For Christine, for Sadet, for Nika, for Minnie, for Gail, I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 340 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, round 5 of Ladies Love Boxing Edition. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Have a good night. God
bless. Bye,
Thank you all.
guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.